Okay, here I want to talk very briefly about the concept of forgiveness in Greek literature. And so how did the Greeks primarily think about forgiveness? This is important because Greek culture, Greek philosophy, Greek worldviews infiltrated into Palestine prior to the time of Jesus, and so some of these ideas or concepts of understanding could have been influential at the time when the New Testament was written, because they're going to use some of the same words, and they are interacting with people who are influenced with Greek culture. So taking a look very briefly here at forgiveness in Greek literature. In pre-Christian Greek literature, after the 5th century BC, so we're talking 5th century, 4th century, 3rd, 2nd century, all the way up to the time of Christ, the Greek word that most closely conveys the idea of forgiveness is sugnomai. So you will notice that that is not the same word that we find being used in the New Testament for forgiveness. And this word sugnomai has a range of meanings, and they convey such the idea of forbearing something, pardoning, or excusing something. So here in Greek literature, people talk about kind of a wrong that is done to someone. They may not think of it necessarily in terms of a sin against the gods, but it is some kind of moral wrong, a human wrong committed against another person. And the concept of forgiveness in this non-biblical Greek literature prior to the time of Christianity is different in that it primarily focuses on the idea of excuse or exculpation. Now what Constant means, he's a classicist who has studied the concept of forgiveness in Greek literature. And what he says is that primarily when a person is forgiving somebody else, they are recognizing or explaining why the wrong was done. So sometimes if you say a young person does something wrong to an older person, they can forgive or excuse that action because they can say, well, they are a young person and they don't know any better. Or if, let's say, a stupid person does something irrational, it's because they are stupid. They don't know any better. You might be able to say, well, because of their lack of intelligence or their lack of rationality, this is what caused them to do something that is not good. So for Greeks, the understanding is if you are a rational person will tend to do good. And it's only when we think irrationally that we would do bad. So you're looking for excuse, you're looking for a reason, some kind of reason to explain why the action was done. That's what you're doing when you forgive someone. So you're no longer angry with them, or you no longer seek to treat that person as an enemy. Because you now know why they have done the deed, the bad deed to you. Asking for forgiveness without maintaining one's status among elite men in Greek literature was seen as a weakness. So in other words, a person who is in the upper classes, the very wealthy, the elite, the powerful, would avoid asking someone to forgive them, because if they did, they would be acknowledging that they had acted irrationally, they had acted in an immoral way, they had acted poorly, and then that would be a reflection on their character. They lack the knowledge to do something that is good. So this would jeopardize their honor as a person. So if someone were to claim, you did me wrong, you did something to me that was wrong, it would be in the elite's interest to explain why the thing was done and why it was a reasonable and a good thing that should be done. So if you wronged someone and then you thought, okay, I did wrong someone, and you want to recognize that the wrong was done, you can accept wrong, to try to avoid asking forgiveness, because that would place the person who is forgiving you in a superior position, and so that would lessen your honor. So what you did instead is you made compensation. Okay, I did this wrong, I now make it up to you, I now compensate you for the wrong. So some kind of injury was done to you, you've maybe lost some kind of finance, or you've lost some kind of reputation within the society. So some loss has occurred to you in the wrong done, and I'm not going to ask for you to forgive me. I'm going to instead pay for the injury. I'm going to go and speak to someone about the situation and try to repair your reputation. So I do something. I compensate for the wrong done, and once I've compensated for the wrong, then no wrong exists. It's been dealt with. The wrong is removed. And finally, so a person who forgives, usually in the Greek world, you love your friends and you hate your enemies. You don't expect your enemies to do, you expect your enemies to do you wrong, but you expect your friends to do good to you. But when a friend or a non-enemy, maybe even a family member, when they do a wrong to you, then once they acknowledge that they have done the wrong, and they want to do something in recompense, in other words, they want to indicate that they take responsibility for the wrong that they have done, then you forgive your friend, you forgive your family member, rather than trying to gain compensation for the injury that was occurred through some kind of vengeance. So if you, in a fit of rage, you killed my cow, therefore an injury has done, I've lost the means through which that cow produces work for me, and so now I can seek vengeance on you. I can go and seek to steal your cow. I can go and seek to demand your cow, or I can go and kill one of your cows, or I can do something else for compensation. But if you decide to come to me and says, "Okay, I know that I killed your cow, I'm sorry, and here is money for you to buy another cow," and I accept that money, I accept that compensation, I have forgiven you. So I'm not going to seek any other type of retribution against you. Some compensation has been made, and that compensation is being accepted. So to accept the compensation is this idea of forgiveness in this pre-Christian Greek literature.